to say I'm feeling like a strange animal at the moment, actually. Because the history is so much capital markets, but we're also talking about art and we also talk about photography, which is sometimes the same, but sometimes not. We talked before how to do this. Maybe I just jump you quickly through some insights how I do look at art or at a collection, so we can talk about if it's only about, you know, like accumulating artworks, or what is behind setting up a collection, spending time but also money and effort to bring something up. So that's why when I did an interview with the Kunstforum a couple of months ago, in the end the journalist really came up with that phrase. He said, "We now speaking for like 10 hours, 2 days, and in the end it seems to me that art for you is like a tool to help you to think." And that's why I put this up here, because it means something to me. So what I will quickly do, I jump through these topics: the nucleus, the moment, the search, etc. And in the app, maybe an excursus, but just one minute or two, into an idea which came out of this whole handling of art for the last 20 years, because as you mentioned, the first artwork we bought came actually very pragmatically to us. We wanted to have some artworks for our home, so we just went to the State Museum and asked if we can go to a studio. And one lady said, yeah, why not? So we went into the studio and bought some artworks of that young student. So that was the beginning. She is still in the collection, and I just bought a sound piece from her. So a very artificial piece of art, because if the sound is not there, more or less nothing is there. That's even harder than video art. Sound pieces are, for me at the moment, the most strange pieces in art. Now maybe this is important. Some of you may know collectors, and we are not all the same, but all different, but it's the question, what is it about? For me, this is what it is. It is, for me, a way to find ideas and thoughts and spread them over. So when we talked about when we will talk later on in the discussion about networked images, this is really important for me. That's why the discussion you're much more into, how you're exchanging photos, how you talk to each other. This is for me the most relevant part, because I find that art sitting in a collector's home is more or less not relevant, beside the fact that the good thing is at least this person paid some money to make the artwork go around, but that's the only thing. Beside that, it's really more that all the participants in that world need to work together to get this thing somehow running. So I have the discussion sometimes in Frankfurt when people come from university and start their first steps in the art world. And unfortunately in Germany, I think in the US it's totally different. In Germany, people get not trained at all about the market itself. So they're coming out of university, producing a video and saying, okay, I want to have 20,000 euros. And I say, okay, for what? And they say, yeah, that's the production cost. And I say, well, what does this have to do with me? In a way that we talk about editions, they said, select the whole market part of art. I think it's completely underdeveloped. It is important because with no money, unfortunately, the work cannot go into the art world or cannot be spread over. For me, how did it start? There are some moments, and some of the names here I really like a lot. And when we talked about the cable, the overseas cable, that great image there, I immediately thought about Trevor Paglen, because he is using this kind of interesting subject too, but also Terence Simon is using that. If you see that cable there, when you talk to her, this work for her from the whole series of American Index, and Hidden Places, this is her absolute favorite from 62 works in that series. I mean, the one with the cable in the middle up. And why I call this the moment, this is because collecting is so much about passion, which sometimes is not really so nice, because it really hurts sometimes. But then you have that great moments when you come into an exhibition and you see things like Terence Simon's first show, which we had in Frankfurt in, I think, 2007 or 8. I don't remember, 7 or 8 it was. And you see this collection, you know exactly that you love that. And then you fight for actually owning some of these. So that's maybe a collector thing. Some people say, well, I'm pretty happy if I can look at art. That's maybe a difference to a collector. A collector cannot only look at art, but he needs to own something. But this is the same for probably stamp collectors or stone collectors or clothes collectors, for whatever. So it's really the quality of thinking about the work is getting more intense by owning it and also putting it into a collection. A collection is not meaning putting one piece to the other, but it's saying what collectors sometimes do is they're building up a story. So all the works they buy and all the works they find, all together they're building a story. And that's what, for me, is a real great part of collecting, because then you can put these works together also in exhibitions, and then coincidentally every single work gets a much different importance, because the big story sometimes also needs very small pieces which on its own maybe sometimes even boring, but in the whole story they are really great and working quite well. Also you have situations where, and we will probably discuss about this also, sometimes the borderline between different categories is really hard to find. It can be, is it pure photography or is it art photography? In this case it was a short film. This guy, Thibaut Atkins, won quite a few prizes in short film, but then this came into a gallery. So one could say it is only art or a video art because it came into the gallery and it was limited to a few editions. And if someone says so, I could actually say, yeah, maybe that's right. And this is, I thought, you know, a presentation is nice, but I thought I'd give you maybe 1 minute of this video, because this has been, I gotta find my way here through this. Sorry for the mess. This touched me a lot. It's only a 1 minute thing. Let me check how I can do this. Okay, I don't see anything.
Leertaste.
Leertaste? Wow.
So, if we asked you to come up with a scene for our film, like a fantasy, how would you like to put it? It's a very complicated question. It's a bit strange, but if we asked you to come up with a fantasy in our gangster film, which we can make happen for you somehow, like a gangster fantasy or something which you find that which represents you as a person.
You see, if I take part in a scene or something, right? I would like to be my character that I play. I must die in the movie, you see. And if I die, I want to leave something behind me so that the others can remember me. You see, they will always talk about me, you see. But I did something good. That's why I died. Like something like I was playing a child in the street, you see, so the other gang came to like shooting, you see, so I threw myself over that small boy. People must remember me like that, you see. But I must die in the movie at the end.
Do you think about death often?
Every day.
And how do you imagine death?
Scary.
So why did I choose that 1 minute of a 35-minute video? Because for me art is extremely a lot about values. It's for me a transformator of values. It's for me a tool, if you can call art as a tool, to globally transfer the same values. And if you listen to this guy, who's a real gangster from Kapstadt, so the whole video goes about gangsterism and people who have really a very bad past, There's a lady which is 33, spent out of these 33 years, 17 years already in jail. And these people talk about life. But if you listen to that guy, you're realizing that he is not a bad guy per definition. So he has the same thinkings, emotions than other people have. So for me, this common value scheme is really important, and with art, it doesn't matter where it comes from, you can exchange these kind of things. The Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, for instance, said on this piece, that's a festival of humanity. And they say that about a work which is called Gangster Backstage. So that's, I think that's a very strong statement. And let me just jump back to but then collecting also this, Franziska mentioned that I'm from the East. So for me, for instance, this left piece this changed the world. So if I should choose one image from my lifetime, that would be the image on the left-hand side, because that was the night or the next day following the 9th of November 89 when the wall came down. And I had a chance to get my hands on such a, Barbara Clem is quite an important photographer. She does normally that size. But when we had in Frankfurt the 25th anniversary of the unification, she did some of these things in a huge size. So for instance, the left one is like 4 meters something times 3 meters something. So that's really an impressive piece of photography. And I like to switch over, because she would not call herself an artist. She will always call herself a photographer. But what does that mean for an exhibition? So it's the decision of the curator. What can he put together in order to make the exhibition work? Maybe another thing is, how do collectors find artworks? Because often the point comes, how to an artist finds a collector, or how to an artist finds a gallery. Now, this one, for instance, I found in Venice. So people think about the Venice Biennale as a biennale. Some of you may know, until I think '68, it was a fair, and it, to be honest, is still a fair. Why? Because most of the works you see there, you can buy. Sometimes you may be too late, sometimes not. For instance, this one was just there. I seen it, I fell in love with it, I knew I need to have it, and I knew immediately this is a piece you cannot have for home, because it needs like a couple hundred square meters. It's a 6 screen installation. You can only get this, put your hands on it, then share it out to the world. So you have to do your job to get it out to the people. It has nothing to do with a private home situation. It's just not gonna work. By the way, the same, if I'm seeing there the poor image and Hito style, the same happened to me when I seen Factory of the Sun, I think in 2015. There was 13, I think Hito was 15. No, was it 15 or also 13? Good question. I think it was 15. You see it and you're flashed, and the only problem you have is you think about selling your house for getting that artwork. So that's the bad part of being a collector. And also sometimes it's not that simple. So with Hito and with Richard, there was immediately, this is so important to me, but also important as an artwork. I need to have it and need to get something done here. With Farocki's last work, which was Parallel 1 to 4, it was a bit the opposite. I found it in the beginning and I thought, ooh, I'm not sure if I want that. And only after 3 years and seeing it like trillions of times, I realized that I'm a bit of an idiot, because it took me so long to decide. And then only one piece was left. So you know, normally videos come in editions like this is, I think, an 8th edition of 8. So it just took a while. But why is this so important? Because this piece puts, it's like a frame around the whole collection, because it works with the digital image in a way that it shows you from the beginning in the 80s, the first computer games, how the digital image has overtaken the world, basically. Because now if we see any newspaper, any magazine, more or less all these pictures are not real anymore, because at least they are, you can call them improved or optimized. So what then if you really want to give these things out to the public, you need to have a website. So after we did our first public exhibition, we said, okay, probably we need to put our head above the lines, so it's windy there, but if you really want to support the artists, you cannot keep them at home. You need to go out, talk about them, show them, lend artworks out. So we thought, if curators want to find something, they at least have to have a chance to find us and find some of the names which are in the collection. So we put together a website, and then this is how to reach the audience. This is what we do today. So you have to talk to people, you have to build up a network, you have, of course, if you can, support institutions. And this is not always meant by spending money. This can also be by spending advice or giving advice. Workshops, panels, interviews, like we did in the Kunstforum. We, for instance, doing in November, we're doing a private screening in the Stadel with quite a few enthusiasts, but they have no idea about video art. Video art for them is, if you go to the Stadel, something really strange. They probably think that I'm completely, well, unusual, to say it that way. Yeah, but also the art lords. As you probably know from sometimes, the best curators have the best connections to the collectors because they know how to get their hands on good and important artworks. But even there, today, there's a development, and we can talk about this later on, because in the older days, if you had a painting and one museum wanted to loan or wanted to take that painting for an exhibition, this was the painting you gave it, and after a few months you got it back. Today, if Terence Simon is doing an exhibition or Richard Moss is showing his enclave, he is not asking any collector. He is showing the piece 10 times the same time, given that only 4 or 5 copies exist. So normally you would say, this cannot be, because every exhibition needs to have one of the original artworks. He doesn't care. Terence Simon does exhibitions all around the place. She doesn't care if there's only an edition of 4. She doesn't even ask. She just does exhibition copies. And either the exhibition copies get destroyed after the exhibition, or she sends them to the next exhibition. So what I want to say is, as a collector, you have to be a bit relaxed nowadays, because you will never know how many copies exist. At least you have a certificate saying this is an edition of 4, and if you really want to show it yourself in a public exhibition, you need to have that property of that piece of art. But that's basically the only thing. The whole amount of money you're paying is not for taking a look at it, because you can ask the gallery, they will show it to you. You can go to Google and probably find a good quality video, so you don't need to buy it. Only if you want to really make exhibition with it, then you need to buy it. But by the same time, you're supporting the artist's production. Now, but then, yeah, let me just quickly jump through. What we also did then, we did 2 exhibitions. So Terence Simon appeared again, and Richard Moss too. So that's just screenshots from the. That one was the Weser book in Bremen, and the other one was the Mönche House in Goslar, which next week we give the. It's a very small town, very small town, but the museum is extremely cool actually. And it's a very old building from like the 1700, and putting video installations in there was, well, after it was ready, it was great fun. Before it was a nightmare. Nothing worked at all. They had never ever shown videos there. Technology was hard. Then you have to do the catalogs, not only because it's cool to have a catalog, but also it's cool for the artist to be visible in the catalog. Now, this advice, why do I say so? I mean what I'm saying there. I have collectors who buy something, I'm not sure, and they want to sell it. And as we all know, there's no secondary market. So it's a very bad decision to do something which emotionally you shouldn't do. Pay immediately, for me, is a very strong advice. I would give that not so much to you, but to other collectors, because even if you have less money than other people have, and in art this is always the case, because you have like the huge collectors like the Paul Allens and these people. But if you pay immediately, you're helping the galleries and you're helping the artists. So that's why if you make the decision to pay to have something, you should be able to pay it, and then you can pay immediately. Now, the third one is important. I'm always saying if you're buying directly from a studio, it may be hard to show this artwork in an exhibition because the gallerist may not know it, the artist may not have it in his Werksverzeichnis, in his work list. No, how is it called? Werksverzeichnis. Yeah, in his catalog resume, exactly. Sometimes it's even not paid with normal money, but with extra money. So that's why I'm saying, just think about if you really want it. A network, all these big online places like Saatchi Gallery, like Artsy, talking about, on our page you can make huge, you can do great findings, etc. You can make discoveries, and I'm always saying, yeah guys, but how does a beginner in that world should make a discovery? He first of all needs to talk to people, needs to understand a bit, and step by step he is improving, and by the way, then he is able to make discoveries. But the last one counts for more or less everything we do. So this is it. When we first had the discussion about this workshop, I said some of the things we see in the market for now 20 years, and the capital market background helps me to see maybe some issues which I don't like so much about the artwork, or where I at least think they could be improved. And that's why a couple months ago we thought, why, if other people don't do it, why don't we ourselves add something to the market in a way that we're producing an application. So don't go to the App Store at the moment, you won't find it at the moment because it's not there. We, like in any project, have a delay of like 4 weeks or so. But what we want to do with that Archie, with that Archie's nose, Archie, by the way, was the dog of Andy Warhol. And he said, this dog has the best nose for masterpieces in the world. This is not so much about masterpieces, but this is about a companion, which should always be there for you. And it should do something also for you, which we talked about. It should help you network. Means, I don't know how you guys doing that if you're somewhere on a festival or so, but if collectors go to a fair and we meet, yeah, we say hello, but the next question is not how are you, the next question is what have you seen? What have you bought? Anything you can recommend to me? And then it's always the same problem. Then people start to go to their private photo app, show you photos in the middle of other private photos, don't find anything, and even if they find the artwork which they want to show to you, you say, okay, great artwork, but where did you find it? And they say, oh, which booth was that? Which gallery was that? I mean, this is outdated. This is like 16th century. We can do that better today, I think. That's why we say this tool can do all this collection for you. It can collect your collection, so you can show your collection in it. But collection does not mean your own private art collection. It can also mean works you would like to own, or artworks which are really bad. So you just want to have kind of a shit list where you say, if you really want to see what I don't like, this is my list. But it can also be more pragmatic, let's say the most expensive artworks, you name it. But you especially can network with your environment. I think that's the most important part of it. And this does not only include collectors, this does for me include all the people in the art world, slash, as long as we see being here, photography in the way we talk about it as also art. So, I hope I kind of reached the topic.
Yes, I think so. Thank you.